The jukebox in Millie's diner crackled, spitting out a warped rendition of Patsy Cline's Crazy. As Lucy wiped down the counter, her hands moving in slow, deliberate circles. The smell of burnt coffee and greasy bacon clung to the air, thick enough to choke on. She sighed, her breath catching the faint hum of the neon open sign flickering in the window. It was 6 a.m. in Willow Creek, Tennessee, and the world felt like it was holding its breath. $50, Emma said, sliding onto a stool with a grin that could have lit the whole damn town. Her camera hung around her neck, lens cap dangling like a dare. I'll pay you $50 for a kiss right here, right now. Lucy froze, her rag dripping soapy water onto the counter. Her heart did a clumsy somersault, like it had forgotten how to beat. Emma was new in town. A photographer from Chicago who'd rolled in last week with a beat-up van and a smile that made Lucy's knees weak. She was everything Willow Creek wasn't, bold, unapologetic, with eyes that saw too much. "You're insane," Lucy muttered, brushing a strand of brown hair from her face. Her voice was soft, but it trembled, betraying the heat creeping up her neck. She was 28, single, and had never kissed anyone, not really. Not in a way that mattered. Growing up in a town where everyone knew your business, she'd learned to keep her heart locked tight. But Emma was a key she hadn't expected. "Come on, Luce," Emma teased, leaning forward, her leather jacket creaking. "It's for charity. The kissing booth at the fair. You're helping sick kids or something noble like that." Her voice was low, playful, but there was a hunger in it, a spark that made Lucy's pulse race. Lucy glanced around. The diner was empty except for Old Man Jenkins in the corner, snoring over his pancakes. The fair was tonight, a big deal in Willow Creek, all twinkling lights and cotton candy. Lucy had volunteered for the kissing booth on a whim, egged on by her coworker Sarah. $50 was a lot for a kiss, especially from someone like Emma, who could have had anyone she wanted. "Fine," Lucy said, her voice barely above a whisper. She stepped out from behind the counter, her sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. The air felt charged, like the moment before a storm. Emma stood, her boots scuffing the floor, and closed the distance between them. Lucy could smell her. Leather, cedarwood, and something sweet like honeysuckle. Emma's lips were soft, warm, and deliberate. The kiss was quick, a brush of skin that sent a jolt through Lucy's entire body. She stumbled back, her cheeks burning, her breath hitching like she'd just run a mile. Emma's eyes locked on hers, dark and unreadable, and for a moment the world was just them. Two women standing in a diner at dawn, the weight of something new hanging between them. "You owe me $50, Lucy managed, her voice cracking. Emma laughed, a low, throaty sound that made Lucy's stomach flip. "Worth every penny," Emma said, tossing a crumpled $50 on the counter before sauntering out, her camera swinging. That should have been the end of it. A stupid kiss for charity, a story to laugh about later. But Emma kept coming back. Every morning she was there, ordering black coffee and watching Lucy like she was the only thing worth photographing. Every glance, every brush of their hands, felt like a promise or a threat. Lucy didn't know which scared her more. By the time the fair rolled around, Lucy's nerves were frayed. The kissing booth was a rickety wooden stand draped in red and white streamers, the kind of thing that screamed small-town charm. The air smelled of popcorn and diesel from the Ferris wheel. Kids screamed, music blared, and Lucy stood behind the booth, her palms sweaty, her heart pounding. Emma showed up just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of pink and gold. She wore a black tank top, her arms lean and tanned, her camera slung over her shoulder like always. "Round two?" she asked, smirking, but her eyes were soft, almost nervous. Lucy's throat tightened. She wanted to say no, to run, to hide from whatever this was. But the crowd was watching and Sarah was nudging her, whispering, "Go for it, Luce." So she leaned in, and this time the kiss wasn't quick. It was slow, deliberate, like Emma was memorizing her. The crowd hooped, but Lucy barely heard them. All she felt was Emma, her warmth, her breath, the way her fingers grazed Lucy's jaw. When they pulled apart, Emma's face was flushed, her lips parted. "Your trouble," she whispered, and Lucy felt like she was drowning. The next morning, Emma was back at the diner, her camera on the counter, her eyes on Lucy. "You can't just kiss someone like that and walk away," she said, her voice low, serious now. "I can't stop thinking about you." Lucy's hands shook as she poured coffee. She wanted to laugh it off, to say it was just a game, but the words wouldn't come. Because the truth was, she couldn't stop thinking about Emma either. Every touch, every look was a spark, and Lucy was terrified of what it meant. In Willow Creek, people talked. They judged. And Lucy had spent her whole life trying to be the good girl, the one who didn't make waves. But Emma wasn't just a wave, she was a tidal wave, and Lucy was already underwater. The diner's ceiling fan clicked rhythmically, a metronome to Lucy's spiraling thoughts. It was Monday, 3 days after the fair, and the memory of Emma's lips still burned like a brand. The morning rush was over, leaving only the faint clink of dishes in the kitchen, and the hum of a radio playing Dolly Parton. Lucy scrubbed the counter harder than necessary, trying to erase the feeling of Emma's gaze, which seemed to linger even when she wasn't there. But she was there. Of course she was. The bell above the door jingled and Emma strolled in, her boots thudding against the floor. She carried her camera like a shield, but her smile was unguarded, almost vulnerable. "Morning, Luce," she said, sliding onto her usual stool. The nickname felt like a secret, soft and intimate, and Lucy hated how much she liked it. "Coffee?" Lucy asked, her voice clipped. She didn't meet Emma's eyes, focusing instead on the coffee pot, its glass fogged with steam. "Always," Emma replied, but her tone was different today, less playful, more urgent. "We need to talk." Lucy's stomach twisted. She poured the coffee, the dark liquid sloshing against the mug, and set it down with a thud. "About what?" she asked, though she knew. God, she knew. Emma leaned forward, her elbows on the counter, her fingers brushing the edge of Lucy's apron. "About us. About that kiss. Both of them." Her voice was low, steady, but there was a tremor in it, like she was holding her breath. "There's no us," Lucy snapped, louder than she meant to. Old Man Jenkins glanced up from his newspaper, and Lucy's cheeks flushed. She lowered her voice. "It was a stupid booth, Emma. A game." Emma's eyes narrowed, but she didn't back down. "You don't kiss someone like that for a game, Lucy. You felt it." "I know you did." Lucy's hands clenched the rag, her knuckles white. She wanted to deny it, to shove the truth back into the box she'd kept it in her whole life. Growing up in Willow Creek, she'd heard the whispers, about the unnatural ones, the ones who didn't fit. She'd seen the way people looked at Sarah's cousin, who'd left town after coming out. Lucy had always been careful, invisible, her heart a fortress. But Emma was storming the walls, and Lucy didn't know how to stop her. "I have work to do," Lucy said, turning away, but Emma grabbed her wrist, her touch gentle but firm. "I'm not giving up on you," Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I see you, Lucy, the real you, and I'm not going anywhere." The words hit like a punch, stealing Lucy's breath. She pulled her hand free and fled to the kitchen, her heart pounding so loud it drowned out the radio. The smell of frying eggs and dish soap grounded her, but only just. She leaned against the wall, her hands trembling, and closed her eyes. Emma's voice echoed in her mind, relentless, like the hum of the diner's neon sign. That night Lucy couldn't sleep. Her tiny apartment above the hardware store smelled of old wood and lavender from the candle she'd lit to calm her nerves. It didn't work. She sat on her bed, the springs creaking under her weight, and stared at the Polaroid Emma had given her. A blurry shot of them at the fair, laughing, their shoulders brushing. Emma had slipped it into her apron pocket yesterday, along with a note, "You're beautiful when you smile." Lucy traced the photo with her fingertip, her chest aching. She wasn't like Emma. Emma was fearless, a city girl who wore her truth like a badge. Lucy was just Lucy, a barista who'd never left Willow Creek, who'd never dared to want more than what was safe. But Emma made her want. God, she wanted so much it scared her. The next morning Emma was back, this time with a thermos of her own coffee and a determined look. I'm taking you out, she said, no preamble, no hesitation. Tonight. Somewhere quiet. Just us. Lucy's mouth went dry. I don't. You do, Emma cut in, her voice soft but unyielding. You're just scared. And that's okay. But I'm not letting you hide forever. The day dragged on, each hour heavier than the last. Lucy's shift ended at 6, and when she stepped outside, Emma was waiting, leaning against her van, the sunset turning her hair to fire. Ready? She asked, holding out her hand. Lucy hesitated, her pulse racing. The town felt too small, too watchful, but Emma's hand was steady, warm, real. She took it, her fingers trembling, and let Emma lead her to the van. They drove to a clearing just outside town, where the stars were bright and the air smelled of pine and earth. Emma spread a blanket on the grass, her camera resting beside her. No pressure, she said, sitting cross-legged, her eyes soft in the moonlight. Just talk to me, Luce. Lucy sat, her knees pulled to her chest, the grass cool beneath her. The crickets chirped, a soft, steady pulse, and for the first time in days she felt like she could breathe. I don't know how to do this, she admitted, her voice small. I'm not like you. Emma's laugh was quiet, almost sad. You think I'm not scared? I left Chicago because I couldn't breathe there either. Too many expectations, too many people telling me who I should be. She reached for Lucy's hand, her thumb brushing over her knuckles. But you? You make me feel like I'm enough. Lucy's throat tightened, tears stinging her eyes. She wanted to believe it, to let herself fall, but the fear was a weight, heavy and familiar. What if this ruins everything? She whispered. What if they hate me? Emma's grip tightened. Then we'll face it together. You're not alone, Lucy. Not anymore. The words hung in the air, heavy with promise. Lucy looked at Emma, at the way the moonlight caught her eyes, and for the first time she let herself hope. The clearing was quiet except for the rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. Lucy's heart thudded, each beat loud enough to drown out the crickets. Emma's hand was still in hers, warm and steady, anchoring her to the moment. The blanket beneath them was rough, flecked with bits of grass, and the air smelled of damp earth and pine. Lucy wanted to freeze time, to stay here where the world couldn't touch them. You don't have to decide anything tonight, Emma said, her voice soft, like she was coaxing a scared animal. But you need to know you're allowed to want this. To want us. Lucy's chest ached, a mix of fear and longing so sharp it stole her breath. She pulled her hand away, hugging her knees tighter. You don't get it, she said, her voice breaking. This town they'll talk. They'll judge. My mom. She stopped, the thought of her mother's disappointed eyes cutting deeper than any words. Emma shifted closer, her shoulder brushing Lucy's. I get it more than you think, she said. Chicago wasn't exactly a safe haven. My family stopped talking to me when I came out. Said I was throwing my life away. Her voice was steady, but there was pain there, raw and unpolished. But I'd rather be alone and honest than live a lie for them. Lucy looked at her, really looked. Emma's face was open, vulnerable in a way Lucy hadn't seen before. The moonlight carved shadows across her cheekbones, and her eyes held a quiet strength that made Lucy feel small and brave all at once. How do you do it? She asked. How do you just not care? Emma's laugh was soft, almost bitter. Oh, I care. Too much sometimes. But I decided a long time ago that my happiness is worth fighting for. And you, Lucy, you're worth fighting for. The words hit like a wave, warm and overwhelming. Lucy's eyes stung and she turned away, staring at the stars to keep the tears from falling. She'd spent her whole life hiding, shrinking herself to fit Willow Creek's expectations. The good girl. The quiet one. But Emma saw her. Really saw her, and it was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. They sat in silence for a while, the night wrapping around them like a cocoon. Emma pulled out her camera, fiddling with the lens, her fingers steady but restless. "You ever think about leaving?" she asked, her voice casual but heavy with meaning. "Starting over somewhere new?" Lucy's breath caught. Leaving Willow Creek had always been a dream, hazy and out of reach. She'd thought about it late at night when the town felt like a cage, but the idea of actually doing it, of leaving her mom, her job, the only life she'd ever known, felt like stepping off a cliff. "I don't know," she admitted. "It's scary." Emma nodded, her eyes on the camera. "Scary's good. Means it matters." She hesitated, then set the camera down and turned to Lucy. "Come with me. Not forever, not yet. Just a road trip. A week. See what's out there." Lucy's heart lurched. "You're crazy," she said, but there was a smile in her voice, small and tentative. "Maybe," Emma said, grinning, "but you like it." The next day, Lucy's shift at the diner felt endless. Every clink of a spoon, every laugh from the regulars grated on her nerves. She kept replaying Emma's words, the idea of leaving, of seeing the world with her. It was reckless, impossible, but it sparked something in her, a hunger she'd buried for years. Sarah noticed, of course. "You're all fidgety today," she said, tying her apron with a smirk. "What's up? That photographer girl got you all twisted." Lucy's cheeks burned. "Shut up," she muttered, but Sarah just laughed, nudging her shoulder. "You like her," Sarah said, not a question. "And she's nuts about you. Anyone with eyes can see it." Lucy wanted to argue, to deny it, but the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she busied herself with refilling sugar jars, her hands shaking. Sarah was her best friend, the only one who'd ever come close to knowing the real Lucy, but even she didn't know everything. How could she, when Lucy barely understood it herself? That evening, Emma showed up at the diner's back door, her van idling in the alley. "Decided yet?" she asked, leaning against the doorframe, her eyes bright with hope. Lucy's mouth went dry. She wanted to say yes, to throw caution to the wind and climb into that van. But the weight of Willow Creek, of her mom's expectations, of the town's whispers, held her back. "I need time," she said, her voice barely audible. Emma's face softened, but there was a flicker of disappointment in her eyes. "Okay," she said. "But I'm not waiting forever, Luce. You're too important for that." That night, Lucy's mom called. The conversation was the same as always, small talk about church, the weather, the diner. But then her mom's voice sharpened. "People are talking, Lucy. About you and that new girl. You need to be careful." Lucy's stomach dropped. She gripped the phone, her knuckles white. "It's nothing, Mom," she lied, her voice hollow. "Just friends." But as she hung up, the lie tasted bitter. She thought of Emma's hand in hers, the warmth of her smile, the way she made Lucy feel alive. And for the first time, she wondered if staying in Willow Creek was worth the cost of losing her. The air in Lucy's apartment was stifling, the lavender candle long burned out, leaving only the faint scent of wax and regret. She sat on the edge of her bed, her phone still warm from her mom's call. The words echoed, "People are talking, Lucy," sharp and accusing, like a knife twisting in her gut. She wanted to scream, to tell her mom it wasn't her business, but the thought of that conversation made her chest tighten. Willow Creek wasn't just a town. It was a mirror, reflecting every choice back at you, magnified and merciless. The Polaroid of her and Emma lay on the nightstand, its edges curling. Lucy picked it up, her thumb brushing over Emma's smile. She could still feel the kiss at the fair, the way Emma's lips had lingered, soft but sure, like a promise. It wasn't just a kiss, it was a door cracking open, one Lucy had kept locked her whole life. And now she didn't know how to close it. A knock at the door jolted her. It was late, past 10, and Willow Creek shut down early. Her heart raced as she crossed the creaky floorboards, the sound of her socks scuffing against wood loud in the quiet. She opened the door, and there was Emma, her leather jacket dusted with mist from the evening drizzle, her hair damp and curling at the ends. "You didn't come to the diner," Emma said, her voice soft but edged with worry. "I waited." Lucy's throat tightened. She stepped aside, letting Emma in. The apartment felt smaller with her there. Like her presence filled every corner. I couldn't, Lucy said, shutting the door. My mom, she heard things. About us. Emma's jaw tightened, but her eyes stayed soft. Let me guess. The town gossip mill's in overdrive. She stepped closer, the scent of rain and cedarwood following her. Luce, you can't let them control you. It's not that simple, Lucy snapped, her voice sharper than she meant. She turned away, hugging her arms to her chest. You don't know what it's like here. They don't just talk, they judge. They shun. My mom's all I have, and if I... She stopped, her voice cracking. If I do this, I could lose her. Emma's hand found her shoulder, warm and steady. You're not losing her by being yourself, she said. You're losing you by hiding. Her voice was low, urgent, like she was pleading. I know it's hard. I know it's scary. But you're stronger than you think. Lucy turned, her eyes meeting Emma's. The room was dim, lit only by a single lamp, but Emma's face was clear, her expression raw and open. Lucy wanted to believe her, to lean into the warmth of her words, but fear was a heavy chain, and she didn't know how to break it. I don't know if I can, Lucy whispered, tears spilling over. I want to, but... Emma cupped her face, her thumbs brushing away the tears. You can, she said. And I'll be here every step of the way. The moment stretched, heavy with unspoken promises. Lucy's breath hitched, and before she could think, she leaned in, kissing Emma with a desperation she didn't know she had. It was messy, raw, full of fear and need. Emma kissed her back, her hands tangling in Lucy's hair. And for a moment, the world outside didn't exist. The next morning, Lucy woke to the sound of rain tapping against her window. Emma was gone, but her jacket was draped over a chair, a note tucked in the pocket. Meet me at the clearing. 7 p.m. Bring your courage. Lucy's heart fluttered, a mix of dread and excitement. She spent the day in a fog, her hands clumsy at the diner, her thoughts on Emma and the choice looming over her. Sarah caught her staring into space during a lull. You're in deep, aren't you? She said, her tone gentle. With Emma. Lucy nodded, her throat tight. I don't know what to do, Sarah. I'm scared. Sarah squeezed her hand. You're allowed to be scared. But you're also allowed to be happy. Don't let this town take that from you. The words stayed with Lucy as she drove to the clearing that evening. The rain had stopped, leaving the air heavy with the smell of wet grass and pine. Emma was waiting, her camera in her lap, her eyes bright despite the gray sky. You came, she said, her voice soft with relief. I had to, Lucy said, sitting beside her on the blanket. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I don't want to lose you. Emma's smile was small, almost shy. You won't, she said. But you need to choose this, Luce. Not just me, yourself. The you you've been hiding. Lucy's chest ached, but for the first time it wasn't just fear. It was hope, fragile but real. She took Emma's hand, her fingers trembling but sure. I want to try, she said. With you. Emma's eyes shone and she leaned in, kissing Lucy softly like a vow. The world felt bigger, brighter, and for the first time Lucy thought she might be ready to face it. The clearing was bathed in twilight, the sky a bruise of purple and blue. Lucy's hand stayed in Emma's, her fingers laced tight. Like letting go would unravel everything. The air smelled of rain-soaked earth and pine, and the quiet was broken only by the soft rustle of leaves. Lucy's heart pounded, but it wasn't just fear anymore. It was something alive, something that felt like freedom. Emma's thumb brushed over Lucy's knuckles, a small gesture that grounded her. What's next? Emma asked, her voice low, careful, like she was afraid to push too hard. Lucy swallowed, her throat dry. I don't know, she admitted. But I want to find out. With you. The words felt like a leap, raw and unguarded, and Emma's smile was like sunlight breaking through clouds. Then let's figure it out together, Emma said, squeezing her hand. She pulled out her camera, snapping a quick shot of their intertwined fingers against the blanket. For the record, she said, grinning, this is my favorite picture yet. Lucy laughed, the sound shaky but real. For the first time in years she felt like she could breathe. The next week was a blur of stolen moments. Emma showed up at the diner every morning, her coffee order a constant, her presence a spark that lit up Lucy's days. They'd sneak away during Lucy's breaks, sitting in Emma's van, sharing stories over the hum of the engine. Emma talked about Chicago, about the art galleries and dive bars, the way the city buzzed with possibility. Lucy talked about Willow Creek, about the time she and Sarah got stuck in a tree trying to rescue a stray cat, about the way the stars looked clearer here than anywhere else. But the town was watching. Lucy felt it in the sideways glances at the diner, the hushed whispers when she walked by. Her mom called again, her voice tight with worry. "People are saying things, Lucy. About that girl. You need to think about your future." Lucy's stomach churned, but she didn't lie this time. "I am thinking about my future, Mom," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "And I'm happy." Her mom went silent, the kind of silence that felt like a storm brewing. "We'll talk about this later," she said finally, and hung up. Lucy stared at the phone, her heart heavy but resolute. She was done hiding. She had to be. That evening Emma took her to a dive bar just outside town. A place where the jukebox played Johnny Cash and the air smelled of beer and sawdust. They sat in a corner booth, their knees brushing under the table, and Emma slid a photo across to her. A black and white shot of Lucy at the diner, her hair falling into her eyes, a shy smile on her lips. "You're beautiful," Emma said, her voice soft but sure. "I want you to see what I see." Lucy's cheeks burned, but she didn't look away. She traced the photo with her fingertip, her heart swelling. "You make me feel like I could be," she said, the words barely audible over the jukebox. Emma's hand found hers under the table, her grip warm and steady. "You already are," she said, and leaned in, kissing her softly. The bar faded away, the world shrinking to just them, and Lucy let herself fall into it, unafraid for the first time. But the moment shattered when a voice cut through the noise. "Well, look at this." It was Tommy, a regular at the diner, his voice slurred and sharp. He stood by their booth, his buddies snickering behind him. "Didn't know you were like that, Lucy." Lucy froze, her heart slamming against her ribs. Emma's hand tightened on hers, but her voice was calm, deadly. "Walk away, Tommy," she said. "This isn't your business." Tommy laughed, but there was no warmth in it. "Whole town's gonna hear about this," he said and stumbled off, his buddies trailing behind. Lucy's breath came in short, sharp gasps. The bar felt too small, too loud, the air thick with the smell of stale beer and judgment. "I need to go," she whispered, pulling her hand free. Emma followed her outside, the night air cool against their skin. "Luce, wait," she said, grabbing her arm. "Don't let him get to you. He's just a drunk idiot." "He's not wrong," Lucy said, her voice breaking. "They'll all know now. My mom, everyone." "I can't." She stopped, tears streaming down her face. "I thought I could do this, but I can't." Emma's face softened, but her eyes were fierce. "You can," she said. "You're stronger than this town, stronger than their small minds. And I'm not letting you go through this alone." Lucy wanted to believe her, but the fear was a tidal wave pulling her under. She climbed into Emma's van, her hands shaking, and they drove back to the clearing in silence. The stars were out, bright and unyielding, but Lucy felt like she was drowning. "I need time," she said finally, her voice small, "to figure this out." Emma nodded, her jaw tight. "Okay," she said. "But don't shut me out, Luce. Please." Lucy didn't answer. She couldn't. Not yet. The clearing was dark, the stars hidden behind a blanket of clouds. Lucy sat on the hood of Emma's van, her knees pulled to her chest, the metal cold beneath her. The air smelled of damp grass and gasoline, and the silence between them was heavy, broken only by the faint chirp of crickets. Emma stood a few feet away, her hands in her pockets, her face unreadable in the dim light. "I'm sorry," Lucy said finally. her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't mean to shut you out. Emma's shoulders relaxed, but her eyes were guarded. I know, she said. But you're pulling away, Luce. And it's killing me. Lucy's throat tightened, guilt twisting in her chest. She wanted to reach for Emma to close the distance, but her body felt frozen, weighed down by the town's eyes, Tommy's words, her mom's silence. I'm scared, she admitted, tears stinging her eyes. I don't know how to be this person. The one who doesn't care what they think. Emma stepped closer, her boots crunching on the gravel. You don't have to have it all figured out, she said. But you can't keep running from it either. From us. Her voice cracked, raw and vulnerable, and it broke something in Lucy. She slid off the hood, her sneakers hitting the ground with a soft thud, and closed the gap between them. Her hands found Emma's face, her fingers trembling against her skin. I don't want to run, she said, her voice shaking. I want you. I need to know I'm not going to lose everything. Emma's hands covered hers, warm and steady. You won't, she said, her eyes fierce. I promise you, Luce, you're not alone in this. They stood there, foreheads touching, breaths mingling in the cool night air. Lucy's heart raced, but it wasn't just fear anymore. It was hope, fragile but growing. She kissed Emma, soft at first, then deeper, like she was pouring everything she couldn't say into it. Emma kissed her back, her hand sliding to Lucy's waist, pulling her close. For a moment the world was just them, and it was enough. The next morning Lucy woke to a text from Sarah. Check the town square. Now. Her stomach dropped. She threw on a hoodie and drove to the square. The early morning air sharp with the smell of dew and asphalt. A crowd was gathered near the gazebo, their voices a low hum of excitement and judgment. In the center was a photo, blown up and taped to a lamppost. It was Lucy and Emma at the bar, their hands entwined, their faces close. Someone, probably Tommy, had scrawled across it in red marker. Shame on you. The words hit like a slap, and Lucy's knees buckled. She wanted to rip it down to disappear, but her feet wouldn't move. Sarah appeared beside her, her face pale but fierce. Ignore it, she said, grabbing Lucy's arm. They're just small-minded jerks. But Lucy couldn't ignore it. The whispers grew louder, eyes boring into her. She thought of her mom, of the diner, of the life she'd built here. It felt like it was crumbling piece by piece. Emma's van pulled up and she jumped out, her eyes blazing as she saw the photo. Who did this? She demanded, her voice cutting through the crowd. No one answered, but the murmurs grew quieter, uneasy. Emma tore the photo down, crumpling it in her fist. They don't get to do this, she said, turning to Lucy. They don't get to make you feel small. Lucy's eyes burned, but she nodded, her jaw tight. I know, she said, her voice barely audible. But it still hurts. Emma's face softened and she pulled Lucy into a hug. Right there in the square, in front of everyone. The crowd went silent, and for a moment Lucy felt like she could breathe again. Emma's arms were a shield, her warmth a promise. Let's get out of here, Emma said, her voice low. Just for a while. Lucy nodded, her heart pounding. They climbed into the van, the engine rumbling to life, and drove out of town. The road stretched ahead, endless and open, and for the first time Lucy felt like she was moving toward something, not running away. They stopped at a diner an hour away. A greasy spoon with flickering fluorescent lights and the smell of fried onions. They sat across from each other, their knees brushing under the table, and Emma reached for her hand. You okay? She asked. Lucy shook her head, then nodded, a small laugh escaping her. I don't know, she said. But I'm here. With you. That's something. Emma's smile was soft, her eyes bright. It's everything, she said and squeezed her hand. They talked for hours about nothing and everything. Their fears, their dreams, the way the world felt bigger when they were together. Lucy felt the weight of Willow Creek lifting just a little with every word. The diner's coffee was bitter, but Lucy sipped it anyway, the burn grounding her. The hum of the jukebox and the clatter of dishes felt like a shield, keeping the world at bay. Emma sat across from her, her camera resting on the table, her eyes soft but searching. The air smelled of grease and syrup, and Lucy's hand was still warm from Emma's touch. "I want to go back," Lucy said suddenly, her voice steady despite the knot in her chest. "To Willow Creek. I can't keep running." Emma's eyebrows lifted, but she nodded, her expression careful. "You sure?" she asked, her fingers brushing the edge of her coffee mug. "It's not gonna be easy." "I know," Lucy said, her jaw tight. "But it's my home. And I'm done letting them make me feel like I don't belong." Emma's smile was small, proud. "That's my girl," she said. And the words sent a warmth through Lucy's chest, like sunlight breaking through a storm. They drove back as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in streaks of orange and pink. The van's engine hummed, a steady rhythm that matched Lucy's heartbeat. Emma reached for her hand, her fingers threading through Lucy's, and neither of them let go until they reached Willow Creek. The town felt different now, smaller somehow but heavier too. Lucy's apartment was quiet when they arrived, the air thick with the smell of old wood and lavender. She sat on the couch, Emma beside her, their shoulders brushing. "What's the plan?" Emma asked, her voice gentle but firm. Lucy took a deep breath, the weight of her decision settling in her bones. "I need to talk to my mom," she said. "Really talk. No more hiding." Emma nodded, her hand squeezing Lucy's. "Want me to come with you?" Lucy shook her head. "This one's on me," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "But stay close." "Always," Emma said, and kissed her forehead, soft and sure. The next morning, Lucy stood outside her mom's house, a modest brick rancher with a tidy lawn and a porch swing that creaked in the breeze. The air smelled of fresh-cut grass and her mom's rose bushes, a scent that usually comforted her but now felt like a warning. Her heart pounded as she knocked, her hands sweaty, her stomach churning. Her mom opened the door, her face tight with worry. "Lucy," she said, stepping aside. "Come in." The living room was familiar, floral couch, framed photos of Lucy as a kid, the faint smell of lemon cleaner. But it felt different now, like a stage for a scene she'd been dreading her whole life. They sat, the silence heavy, broken only by the tick of the grandfather clock. "Mom," Lucy started, her voice shaking. "I need to tell you something. About me. About Emma." Her mom's face stiffened, but she didn't interrupt. Lucy took a breath, the words spilling out like a dam breaking. "I love her, Mom. I'm in love with her. And I know what people are saying, what you're probably thinking, but this is who I am. I can't change it, and I don't want to." The words hung in the air, raw and heavy. Her mom's eyes filled with tears, and for a moment Lucy thought she'd walk away. But then her mom reached for her hand, her grip trembling but firm. "I don't understand," she said, her voice breaking. "But you're my daughter, Lucy. I love you. I need time." Lucy's throat tightened, tears spilling over. It wasn't acceptance, not yet, but it was something, a crack in the wall, a sliver of hope. "Okay," she whispered. "I can give you that." That evening, Lucy met Emma at the clearing, the stars bright above them. She told her about the conversation, about her mom's tears, about the fragile bridge they'd started to build. Emma listened, her hand in Lucy's, her eyes soft with pride. "You did good, Luce," she said, pulling her close. "Really good." Lucy leaned into her, the warmth of Emma's body grounding her. "I'm still scared," she admitted, her voice muffled against Emma's shoulder. "But I feel free. For the first time." Emma's laugh was soft, her breath warm against Lucy's hair. "That's what love does," she said. "It sets you free." They lay on the blanket, staring at the stars, the air alive with the scent of pine and possibility. Lucy's heart was full, not just with love for Emma, but with love for herself, the self she'd hidden for so long, now stepping into the light. The morning sun filtered through the diner's windows, casting long shadows across the linoleum. Lucy wiped down the counter, the familiar rhythm of her rag a quiet comfort. The air smelled of coffee and pancakes, and the jukebox played a soft rendition of Stand By Me. It was a new day in Willow Creek, but Lucy felt different, stronger, like she'd shed a skin she'd outgrown. Emma sat at her usual stool, her camera on the counter, her eyes on Lucy. "You're glowing," she said, her voice teasing but warm. "What's the secret?" Lucy laughed, the sound light and free. "You," she said simply, and Emma's smile was brighter than the morning sun. The town hadn't changed overnight. There were still whispers, still glances, but they felt less heavy now. Lucy had faced her mom, faced herself, and that was enough to make the world feel bigger, brighter. Sarah had noticed too, giving Lucy a knowing wink as she refilled coffee pots. "You're different," she said. "Happier." "I am," Lucy admitted, her heart swelling. "I really am." That afternoon, Emma convinced Lucy to take a drive. They headed to a lake an hour away, a quiet spot where the water sparkled under the sun, and the air smelled of reeds in summer. They spread a blanket by the shore, Emma's camera clicking as she captured the light dancing on the water, Lucy's laughter, the way their hands fit together. "You ever think about the future?" Emma asked, lying back on the blanket, her hands behind her head. "Like where we'll be in a year?" Lucy lay beside her, the grass tickling her arms. "All the time," she said. "I used to think it'd be here forever, pouring coffee and keeping my head down. But now," she turned to Emma, her heart racing. "Now I think it could be anywhere, as long as it's with you." Emma's eyes softened, and she rolled onto her side, propping herself up on one elbow. "Good answer," she said and kissed her slow and sweet, the kind of kiss that felt like a promise. They talked about dreams. Emma's hope to open a gallery, Lucy's quiet wish to write, to tell stories that mattered. They talked about leaving Willow Creek, not running away, but choosing a life that was theirs. It wasn't a plan, not yet, but it was a start, and that was enough. That evening they returned to Willow Creek, the van's headlights cutting through the dusk. Lucy's mom had texted, asking her to come over for dinner. "Bring Emma," the message said, and Lucy's heart skipped, a mix of nerves and hope. The dinner was quiet at first, the clink of forks and the smell of roasted chicken filling the space. Her mom was trying, Lucy could tell. Her questions about Emma's photography were hesitant but genuine. Emma answered with her usual charm, her hand finding Lucy's under the table, a silent reassurance. After dinner, her mom pulled Lucy aside, her eyes soft but serious. "I'm not there yet," she said. "But I'm trying, Lucy. For you." Lucy hugged her, tears in her eyes. "That's all I need," she said, and meant it. Weeks later, Lucy and Emma stood in the clearing one last time before Emma's lease on her rental ended. She decided to stay in Willow Creek a while longer, to give Lucy time to build something real. The air was crisp, the stars bright, and Lucy felt like she was standing on the edge of something new. "Thank you," Lucy said, her voice soft but sure, "for not giving up on me." Emma's laugh was warm, her arms wrapping around Lucy. "Never," she said. "You're worth every second." They kissed under the stars, the world quiet around them, and Lucy knew, deep in her bones, that she'd found her home. Not in Willow Creek, but in Emma, in herself, in the life they were building together. The $50 for that first kiss had been a spark, a dare, a beginning. And now, as Lucy held Emma's hand, she knew it was the best investment